Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show, where we help you make the wisest and most profitable decisions. My name is Dr. Gleb Tsipursky. I'm the CEO of Disaster Avoidance Experts, the future of work consultancy that sponsors the Wise Decision Maker Show. And today I'm joined by Randall. Randall, can you introduce yourself to the audience and share a little bit about what you do?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. My name is Randall Ward. I'm CEO of Appfire. We are an enterprise software company that helps extend, enhance, and augment platforms like Atlassian, Microsoft Azure DevOps, Salesforce, Slack, and Monday.com.
Now, I know that something that you're thinking about is among the shift to hybrid and remote work, employee engagement is a big challenge. And that's been something that you've been working on. So what do you do to ensure that employees stay engaged in the context of hybrid and remote work? I guess first share what you do about hybrid and remote work at Appfire, and then tell us a little bit about what you do to help address the question of employee engagement and cohesion and culture.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, our company is going on 18 years in business. We've been a mixed hybrid remote organization since day one. I transitioned out of brick and mortar and traditional office work 18 years ago. Every day for the last 18 years, I've woken up where I want to work. Typically, that's at home. Sometimes that's at the airport. That said, we've always found the need to have a shared collaborative space, either an office location or a shared office location throughout our years. Today, we have Appfire Fireflies. We call ourselves Fireflies. We have Appfire Fireflies in 26 countries with 9 offices around the globe. We're 2/3 Eastern European, but we have a large mixed shift of hybrid work going on. We have some Appfire colleagues that choose to go to the office every day, some that go several days a week, and some that go none at all except for large collaborative events. And so the way we fostered collaboration throughout the years is to make sure that the engagement exists both at office and away from office. In other words, if you're in the office, you shouldn't have access to more information or more decision making than you do if you're hybrid, if you're working remotely or if you're working in a mixed shift world. So you should have the same level of access to information, objectives that the business is on, and access to your colleagues. And so we use a lot of remote tooling. I'm sure everyone listening on the audience has great experience now over video conferencing, but we use communication tools like Slack. We do a lot of shared calls between team members. And then, as I mentioned, mixed hybrid for us is definitely about making sure that we have times where we do come together, times where we do want to collaborate in person. And we can make those around fun events or community events, but we also can make it around strategic decision making. So it's quite frequent that I'm inside of an Appfire office in one of those locations around the globe.
That makes sense. But let's go a little bit deeper on making sure that all employees have the information that they need. I know that so I've helped 26 organizations figure out their flexible work policies, and that's definitely a challenge. How do you make sure that employees who are outside the office have the same level of information and access that those do who are in the office? Traditionally, there's that proximity bias where there's the favoring of people who are in the office, whether it's favoring because of those relationships, you see them, you tell them things, and that you kind of forget about the people who are outside the office. So what do you do to address that natural intuitive proximity bias?
Yeah, it exists. You're so right. It does exist. It helps, of course, that the CEO and founder of the business works remotely on a regular basis. So typically, if I can't find something, I know someone else can't find items throughout the business. So in terms of access to documents or resources, so we find those problems quickly. But we do make sure that we're hiring leaders that are human first, that are always thinking about the person that is remote or the teams that are remote, and thinking of ways to include them in the discussion or in the preamble, or making sure that there's great notes that are circulated throughout the business. So we use modern techniques and tooling, but we also use traditional human behavior, just making sure that we are thinking of others and including them, making sure we are circulating and making the rounds across the business. The most important thing that we do is we allow team members, Appfire team members across the globe to make the decision whether they want to be in the office or not. We don't force it. And just by doing that proxy, there's an expectation across the globe that not everyone is in the room that could be helping make this decision or arrive at it. So I think we've cultured and nurtured that quite a bit. And I don't think we get it right all the time, but we're always looking to get it right.
Now, let's talk a little bit about what specific techniques you do to do that. So I think those are nice principles, and that's something
Yeah.
I try to talk about with my clients. But there are a number of techniques, and I have a number of techniques I use, but I'm curious about what techniques, specific techniques, tactics do you use to achieve those outcomes?
Yeah. Well, one thing we do is we have a dedicated team that works on internal corporate communication. So they're making sure that there's synergies and linkages between teams that are performing activities. So if I happen to be in our Poland office, visiting and attending a location, and we're making a strategic decision, there is someone from a communications team that's there and making sure that that information is being broadcast across. So in some cases, it's just making sure that the information does make it back out of the room. And that can happen in note taking, but it's really good if we have communication teams there. We do a lot of gamification. We make sure that we have lots of fun events when we are bringing people together, and that those fun events extend to people who are remote. So quite often we'll have, most recently we've invited DJs to join video conferences, so they kick off the initial call. It just helps people sort of get engaged, where there's groups of people in a room over a video conference, and then there's individuals at home. We are always trying to make sure that we have access to the latest tools and technology. So if we're on a Zoom call like we are, you and I right now, that we have AI technologies involved to make sure that there's information distributed and good access. So we combine modern with human techniques, and I think that's that makes it all work.
Excellent. Now, given the kind of company you are and the kind of things that you do, you're probably very well aware of the kind of project management tools that would be most facilitate remote work and collaboration. I'm curious what you use internally, because you are so familiar and aware of all the technology. What's your own internal technology stack to collaborate effectively for remote folks, in-office folks, hybrid folks? What do you do about that?
Yeah, great question. We're an enterprise in size. We have over 800 Fireflies globally. So you might think, because of our expertise in Atlassian, we only use Jira as a project management and tracking software, but we happen to use Microsoft Teams. We use Monday, we use Trello, we use ClickUp, we use Asana. We have teams that use spreadsheets. So one thing we've discovered over the years of working with enterprise teams around collaboration, in even small teams, is that the teams prefer to choose the tools they use to collaborate. And so we don't force mandate one set of tools or one set of structured tools to manage projects. We allow teams to sort of self-organize around those tools. We make sure that there's linkage between them, right? That's really important, that they're well integrated. And I think that's our only hard, fast requirement, is that they're well integrated and people have access to them. And so, yeah, you can find a number of product management tools, different teams relying on them for different purposes. And that's very common as we broadcast out to our customers. When we survey our top customers, many of them are using, many enterprise companies are using anywhere between 100 to 150 platforms to collaborate around. And so, yeah, it's no different with Appfire.
Now, what kind of advice do you give to your clients on how to collaborate effectively if those clients have hybrid and remote settings? You have some internal expertise on that. What do you do to help them do so better, collaborate more effectively?
Yeah, well, our products by nature help teams make workflow, right? That's our mission, is to help teams, equip and connect teams to help them make workflow throughout their day. So we have a variety of developer tools, administrative tools for these platforms. We have publishing tools and Agile and ITSM products, IT service management products. And so just the very, very nature of our work, we spend a lot of time writing about how those products work and extend workflow within businesses. So the types of advice and guidance we're giving are pretty practical and across a wide array of customers. We're fortunate to have 26,000 customers worldwide, over 220,000 installations of our software. So we get a large, broad depth and breadth of how teams are collaborating now and into the future. We work with not just enterprise, we work with 2-person teams and 200,000 person teams. And so, again, it's a wide range of advice and techniques, product by product.
Excellent. Now, turning to another issue besides collaboration, I'm curious about the issue of well-being and work-life balance. So folks who are working remotely often tend to work longer hours than those who are in the office. What do you do about that issue? You've have experience with this for over 18 years, and I know that when I started my own company and I started it working fully remotely, it's definitely easy to overwork for me, for my staff. I'm curious, and of course, I have a much smaller company than you do. So I'm curious what you do to help address the suit of issues.
Yeah, super question. Again, not perfect. We're always trying to dial this and make this more balanced, make the environment more balanced. I think the first thing is, as I mentioned at earlier in the conversation, we hire leaders that are human first. There's a constant interest in knowledge from our managers and our senior leaders across the business in employee not only engagement, but in that balance, making sure that the team's not overloaded, making sure that there's good clarity around priorities of tasks, and making sure that there is good separation. So we do have products and tools that we use to communicate with people around the globe at various hours. We make it very clear that we're not expecting instantaneous responses, right? We can work in asynchronous fashion. These tools allow us to do that. They were designed to do that. They're not designed to be instant message. They're designed to be a tool to facilitate communication around a series of time zones. So some techniques that we use internally is we broadcast time zones across resources. I think that's really helpful. So you know where the person's geolocated, even when they're traveling, which is really helpful. So that just helps us understand whether we should on or off that message. Like, should we be sending this right now or can it wait? We deploy tools inside of our Slack environment that allow us to do calendaring and scheduling. So it honors your calendar schedule. It shows people when you're in meetings, when you're traveling, when you're out of office. I think those things are just basic hygiene that should be in place that help create a border and barrier. The other thing, though, that we do that is just human first is we set the expectation that don't expect me to respond instantaneously when I'm at home just because I'm at home. I may have other priorities here, and I often do, right? We think that separation when I cross the threshold from my office into family life, the priority needs to shift. It needs to change there. We are a human first, family first business. We know there's going to be times where people at home need to take a break, and that's completely acceptable. And it's the same whether they're in the office or at home. So there's just practical hands-on things. Over the years, some of the techniques that I've personally deployed, one is study your hobbies, the things that you really have interest in that you've been doing for a long period of your career on a regular basis. The example that I use for me is, every night at home when I'm not traveling, I like to play guitar for my children. Whether they're listening or not, or they're tuned out and they're listening to TikTok, that's not the worry on my end. I just want to make sure that I'm present and playing music. I find great joy in playing guitar. I find great joy in playing and singing with them. And so my canary in the coal mine, my litmus test on whether or not I am adding that separation is if I find for some reason that I'm not doing that, engaging in that on a regular basis, likely something's interrupting that pattern. And what I found over the years, the typical thing that's interrupting that pattern is I'm overextending my work schedule. And so I will use that as a canary. I will use that as that litmus test. And I think that's a great thing that we can all find. You can find it, and everyone in your audience can find something that they do on a regular basis that gets interrupted.
That's a really useful tip. I, for example, spend time with my wife, checking in over the day, chatting every evening, and that's kind of a litmus test for me.
Coffee talk. I like it. I like it. That's super.
Now, as you're thinking about the future, and we're wrapping up our conversation, how do you think new technology will impact how you're doing remote work and hybrid work, how you're facilitating collaboration, well-being more effectively?
Yeah, well, I think, the use of newer technologies now, namely AI, is, the way we look at AI at Appfire and the way I encourage lots of businesses to look at AI is this is a technology that's going to be with us for a long time. It's going to evolve and morph over time. Of course, it already has. We can't expect that to change. We can expect this to be here for the rest of our careers. And in enhancing them as we see fit. And the way we look at it at Appfire, throughout Appfire, is this is a cognitive partner that we can bring to work every day. So we use AI to take away some of the administrative work that we have, the overhead work, that taxing stuff that we don't want to be doing. so that we can elevate our roles to think more strategically, so we can elevate our roles to spend more time collectively, so we can spend more time away from work if we need that, right? There are so many tools that we could be deploying throughout our organizations that help us with simple things like note-taking and follow-ups and action items and dictation. And these will continue to evolve, and we need to keep our eye on that, right? So I think that all blends into this hybrid work experience that we're creating, right? That we're starting to blend into our day-to-day work patterns and our day-to-day life patterns. And so I'm encouraged by it. I'm encouraged by what I see. I'm encouraged by the speed and pace at which it's accelerating and the access to the variant tooling that we see. And I think the world ahead is a better world and a better place than where we've left it. I'm confident of that because of technologies like this and because of businesses like yours and mine that are allowing colleagues to make choices for themselves, working remote or working in the office.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise, Randall. This was great.
Thanks for having me. I feel lucky. Thank you so much.
And thank you to the audience for checking out another episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show. Please make sure to subscribe wherever you checked out the show and leave a review. It helps others discover the show, and it helps us improve the show.